The thing is, we all know that there's more to the story about the incident with Carmelo Anthony than what they're sharing with us. But even if there were not, it's still self-defense. Even if everything we knew was the only thing that was true, it's still self-defense. It's so interesting to me how everyone can understand the stand your ground law when it came to George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, which, by the way, wasn't even a valid excuse in that case. But in this instance, where someone walked up to that young man, threatened him, he gave him a warning, and then he responded after he was touched, now all of a sudden nobody gets it. And everybody keeps asking, why did he have a weapon? But I feel like we're skipping a few scenes of the movie, because the beginning and the starting question is, why did that young man walk up to him, tell him to get out of his seat, and then threaten him and put his hands on him? It's also so obvious that there's so much more to the story, and that was made extremely obvious when they only released a statement from the boy's twin brother. And they said that there were a bunch of other kids sitting around. Why are we only hearing from the twin brother? And if it was in fact true that they had no idea who Carmelo Anthony was before that moment, then again, play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
It always tickles me when I see Carmelo Anthony supporters theorizing that there's more to the story. Like there's some sort of deep, dark secrets that would make it okay for Carmelo Anthony to stab Austin in the chest at a track meet. But it's funny watching them theorize that, oh man, there's more to the story. There were all kinds of people there. Why haven't we heard from anyone? It's funny because they're on the right track, but they just don't quite grasp it. You're headed in the right direction. You're more hot than cold right now. It's just the actual answer as to what is going on. It's just slipping away from you. Maybe you're just not intelligent enough to kind of put two and two together here. But the fact is, there is more to the story. And it all has to do with Carmelo. Like past suspensions from school, bringing a knife to school, being known for fighting, being involved in a assault on February 4th. Yeah, there is more to the story. And yeah, there were a lot of people there that saw something, and usually we would hear from them. But as soon as we heard one or two sentences out of the mouth of one of Carmelo's classmates, and she revealed that he was known for fighting, they shut everything down. The entire media decided, hey, this is the biggest story. This is the biggest news story possibly in Frisco, Texas history. People all over the world are tuned into this story. I got people reaching out to me from Norway and just all types of places on earth. By the way, shout out to Norway and shout out to everyone watching abroad. There are people all over the world tuned into this story, but the local media decided, hey, we can't cover it. We can't talk about it. Because the more you talk about it, the more interviews you do, the more you realize that Carmelo wasn't the angel that they're making him out to be. So it's like these people are on the right track, but they're kind of they're missing the answer because they have their little racism goggles on and everything in their mind is all the fault of the white man, right? But they're almost there. Give them credit. They're almost there. Maybe one day they'll realize. They've been ignoring the interview with the girl who revealed that Carmelo is known for fighting. And they're pretending like they don't know about the early news release about Carmelo bringing knives to school and stuff like that. So they're just like, there's more to the story. What's going on here? Yeah, what's going on here is crimes committed by young black men are often covered up in this country, at least right now. I'm not saying it was always that way. Maybe you could make the argument that at one point in time in history, the legal system was unjust and unfair to black men. I wouldn't even argue that. But right now, it's not the case. There's crimes being covered up, and there's always an attempt to paint the criminal out to be the victim, while the victims are kind of like victim blamed. And that's what's happening here. You're blaming Austin for being murdered at a track meet. And they're acting like it's a big mystery. What's going on? Why did he ask Karmelo to move? Maybe because Karmelo was in the wrong place, under another team's tent. And everyone I've talked to who have kids in track, who have kids at these sporting events, they all say, yeah, hey, a team's tent is for that team. It's not for other people to go hang around and mosey around and threaten people with knives. No, a team's tent is for that team. But these people who support Karmelo, they do not understand what a structured society is. They look at rules and they look at laws and they look at certain things put in place and they view it as all this racist system, when in reality, this is how you have a productive society. This is how you run a high trust, productive society, right? This is what separates America from other third world countries and little shitholes all over the world. But anyway, they keep hollering about self-defense, self-defense, self-defense. But, I'm no legal expert. As I always say, I am not a lawyer, but I do a little research. I do a little reading up on things. And in my honest opinion, there are at least 4 or 5 things that would cancel out Karmelo's self-defense claim. I mean, the fact that, you can't claim self-defense while in commission of a crime. The fact that he brought a knife to a track meet, that's a crime. That's just one surface level thing that could really destroy his self-defense claim. Now, will they really allow that? Will they allow that to negate his self-defense claim in court? Probably not. But there are a lot of other things as well. But I want you guys to hear from an actual lawyer about how she feels about Karmelo's self-defense claim. But before I roll this clip, people often ask, how can they support the channel? The answer to that question is very simple. You can support the channel via Cash App or Super Thanks. It is always greatly appreciated. Or you can support the channel for free by liking the video, commenting below, sharing the video, and subscribing if you haven't already. But with that being said, let's go ahead and roll this clip, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
Karmelo Anthony is not likely to succeed on a self-defense claim in his situation with Austin Metcalf. And one of the main reasons why I don't think he's going to be able to succeed is because of the quotes that they are using in the arrest affidavit, which could potentially show intent. Now, intent does not have to be the intent to unalive someone. It can just be the intent to use a dangerous weapon in order to stop your assailant. And developing that plan does not need to be a plan over a couple of days. It can be a plan over a couple of seconds. Like, if this guy touches me, I'm going to use the dangerous thing that I brought in my backpack to hurt him. And that can take all of 1 to 3 seconds. I know a lot of people are saying the fact that he had it in his backpack indicates that he had an intent to start some trouble, but I don't think that's necessarily true. I definitely understand people saying that Texas is a stand your ground state and an open carry state. However, when you are standing your ground, you are only able to use force that is justified. Now, people are saying both twins who are well over 200 pounds was approaching Karmelo, and Karmelo was only about 160, 170 pounds. So using the weapon might have been justified if he's defending himself against 2 large boys. But that's going to be a question for fact that the jury has to decide. I know the father of Austin Metcalf is saying that this is not a race issue and he doesn't want it to be a race issue and politicized. However, we have to be honest with ourselves. The fact that this is going to go to trial and the current justice system that we have right now, it is going to turn into a race issue, whether you want it to be one or not. Now, I understand that Karmelo is trying to raise money in order to defend himself in the trial and hopefully he can get to his goal. The situation is unfortunate for both families. Karmelo could potentially lose his life by going to jail, and Austin Metcalf honestly lost his life. It's really just an unfortunate situation all around.
So some of you may agree with what she said. Some of you may disagree. I just respect the fact that she kept it real. And I think there's a lot of white people that may need to see this clip and understand that, hey, you could try to pretend that it's not a racial thing because you're scared to acknowledge it, or you want to try to get some like cool points or something like that. But the reality is there is a racial aspect to this story, and there's going to be a racial aspect to the trial. There's going to be race brought up in the defense. And literally every black person, regardless if they support Karmelo or they don't, every one of them knows that this is a racial thing going on here. So the only people that are in denial of that are like a certain group of white people who they're just really scared. But look, it's not to say that Karmelo was racist and he did this to Austin because of Austin's skin color. And it's not to say that Austin told Karmelo to move because of his skin color. I don't think there was racial tensions between the two. It's just the reaction to this story and how this is going to be handled in court. And I don't know what more you guys need to see. You have Karmelo's representative literally do an entire press conference telling people that this is about race and shaming people for saying that it's not. So, yeah, there is going to be a total racial aspect to this whole entire thing, even the trial, and it can sway how some of the jurors feel and the decisions they make. So you can try to deny that, but it's just reality. And it's not the reality that I want. I'd rather there not be any racial things involved in this story. But I have to operate in reality. And when I report things, I report what's really happening, what's really going on, regardless if it makes you feel comfortable or not. The news is not meant to make you feel comfortable. It's meant to inform you of what's actually going on. And there may be some people who are covering this story that don't really actually know what's going on, okay? They may read some of the details that are released, but culturally, from a street level, they don't understand the other aspects to this story in the way that I do. She also touched on something that I've been trying to explain in past videos as well, though, which is intent. And we talked about, hey, could this crime be considered premeditated? You know, a lot of people think that for there to be intent or for something like this to be premeditated, that there has to be a long, thought-out process, that you have to sit at home and write little journal entries in your diary before doing something crazy, but that's not the case. Intent can be established, as she said, within a few seconds. So Karmelo Anthony saying, touch me and see what happens, the intent is established right there that, oh, I intend to stab you with this knife that I am concealing in my backpack if you touch me. That is intent right there. It's not even that complicated, and that's why I say I don't know if this self-defense claim is really going to hold up. If it does, it's not going to be because Karmelo has a strong argument. It's going to be because racial or social reasons. Because when you boil it down to just the law, which is what these trials should be about, but we know they're not always just about the law. But if you boil it down to just the law, yeah, I mean, lawyers should have, or the DA, whoever, should have a very, very easy time, establishing the fact that Karmelo at least had, some thoughts put into what he was going to do to Austin before it happened. It's not something that happened in the heat of the moment during some type of violent exchange. No, he established the intent and the premeditated part. It all happened right there in the seconds of, hey, touch me and see what happens, knowing that if he got touched, pushed, punched, whatever it was, that he was going to stab Austin in the chest. Because at the end of the day, you could also probably prove that Karmelo could have walked away from the situation. Now, of course, people will bring up stand your ground laws. Stand your ground, I don't know how that works when you're standing in another team's tent at a school track meet. It's different than you being in your house or somewhere near your property, your front yard, or something along those lines. Also, you have to use like equal force that's being used against you, as she explained. So Karmelo's lawyers are going to have a tough time explaining why he really needed to use a knife and murder someone in this situation. Was he using the same amount of force that was being used against him? Was it reasonable, for him to do that? Did he have reasonable doubt that his life could have been taken there under that tent? So Karmelo's team has an uphill battle to climb. They know that, so they're going to rely on the racial, social aspects of this story to just hope that somehow they could sway a jury into making an emotional decision instead of a logical one. Let's just put it like that. But with that being said, you guys let me know what you think about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.